Sandi Gaura Bhakta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we read from Caitanya Caritamrita, Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. We are reading from Adi-Lila, chapter 7. We are hearing the glories of Panchatattva, text 59. Sabha namaskari gela pade prakashalane pada prakshalana kari vasila se sthane. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. As soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the sannyasis, he immediately offered obeisances, and then he went to wash his feet. After washing his feet, he sat down by the place where he had done so. So we have been hearing the pastime of Lord Chaitanya when he was in Banaras, that one Brahman came to invite him to his house for lunch, and the Brahman had also invited a lot of Mayavadi sannyasis. So Lord Chaitanya accepted the invitation, and that's where we are at the point now, that Lord Chaitanya has come to the house of the Brahman and he saw the sannyasis. He offered obeisances to the sannyasis. Then he washed his feet. That was a custom before in India, that, because many people would be walking barefoot. So wash the feet before you enter. So he washed his feet, but he stayed outside. He didn't enter. By offering his obeisances to the Mayavadi sannyasis, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very clearly exhibited his humbleness to everyone. Vaishnavas must not be disrespectful to anyone, to say nothing of a sannyasi. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches amanena manadena. One should always be respectful to others, but should not demand respect for himself. So Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Lord himself. He's Krishna himself. Yet he's offering his obeisances to the sannyasis. And he's not discriminating. He's not saying, oh, these are Mayavadi sannyasis, or so I'm not going to offer obeisances. No, he offers obeisances to them. And by his personal example, Lord Chaitanya is teaching us amanena manadena, giving respect to everyone. A sannyasi should walk barefoot, and therefore, when he enters a temple or society of devotees, he should first wash his feet and then sit down in a proper place. In India, it is still prevalent custom that one put his shoes in a specified place and then enter the temple barefoot after washing his feet. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an ideal acharya, and those who follow in his footsteps should practice the methods of devotional life that he teaches us. So Lord Chaitanya, by his behavior, is teaching us how we should act. Vasya karila kichu aishwarya prakash mahate jomaya vapukoti surya bhas. After sitting on the ground, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his mystic power by manifesting an effulgence as brilliant as the illumination of millions of suns. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, is full of all potencies. Therefore, it is not remarkable for him to manifest the illumination of millions of suns. Lord Sri Krishna is known as Yogeshwar, the master of all mystic powers. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord Krishna himself. Therefore, he can exhibit any mystic power. So Lord Chaitanya, he's come to the Brahmana's house, he washes his feet, and he sits down at the place. So first he offers obeisances to all the sannyasis, then he washes his feet, and then he sits down at the place where he washed his feet. He sits there, and from his body, this great effulgence is coming out as millions of suns. And it's not very wonderful for Lord Chaitanya to do it. Why? Because the Brahma Jyoti comes from his body. The Brahman effulgence is coming from his body, so he's just showing it. He's just showing how the Brahman effulgence is coming from his body. Prabhave Akarshila Sabha Sannyasi Ramana Utila Sannyasi Sabachadiya Asana. When the sannyasi saw the brilliant illumination of the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, their minds were attracted and they all immediately gave up their sitting places and stood in respect. To draw the attention of common men, sometimes saintly persons, acharyas and teachers exhibit extraordinary opulences. This is to attract the attention of fools, but a saintly person should not misuse such power for personal sense gratification like false saints who declare themselves to be God. So Prabhupada is saying, because we are so dull. So sometimes to get our attention, the saintly person has to show some extraordinary power. But the saintly person should not misuse that power. It's not to misuse, it's not to call themselves God. It's not that if I get some kind of a power, that I show it and tell everyone else that, oh, look how great I am. No. Even a magician can exhibit extraordinary feats that are not understandable to common men. But this does not mean that the magician is God. It is a most sinful activity to attract attention by exhibiting mystic powers and then to utilize this opportunity to declare oneself to be God. So somebody might have some mystic power and they might use that power to attract the attention of others. And when they get the attention of others, what do? They call themselves, I am God. But that is not right. That is misusing the power. Then, as Prabhupada is saying here, it is the most sinful activity. It is sinful. Only God is God. We are not God. A real saintly person never declares himself to be God, but always places himself in the position of a servant of God. So, a real saint, he always says, God is God. I'm just a humble servant of God. For a servant of God, there is no need to exhibit mystic powers, and it does not like to do so. But on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a humble servant of God performs his activities in such a wonderful way that no common man can dare try to act like him. Yet, a saintly person never takes credit for such actions because he knows very well that when wonderful things are done on his behalf by the grace of the Supreme Lord, all credit goes to the master and not to the servant. So what is the attitude of the saintly person? That even if he has some powers, he does not use it. He does not want to exhibit anything. He has understood, I'm a servant of God. And so he works in that mood. His mood is just that. And whatever he is able to do, he says, he understands that it's not me. I'm just an instrument in the hands of God. I'm just a servant of God. And all the wonderful things are happening is because of God himself, not because of the saintly person. So a saintly person does not try to take credit for himself. He gives all credit to God. That's the point trying to understand here. Prakashananda name sarva sannyasi pradhan prabhu ke kahila kichu kariya samman. The leader of all the sannyasis present was named Prakashananda Saraswati. And after standing up, he addressed Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as follows with great respect. As Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed respect to all the Mayavadi sannyasis, similarly, the leader of the Mayavadi sannyasis, Prakashananda, also showed his respects to the Lord. So Lord Chaitanya, now he's sitting outside where the feet are, where a person washes his feet, and this brilliant effulgence is coming from his body like millions of suns. And so the leader of the sun, and so looking at that, all the sannyasis became so stunned what's happening. They could understand that this person is not an ordinary person. And their leader is called Prakashananda Saraswati. And then he is coming to speak to Lord Chaitanya with great respect. He understood that, oh, here is a person, he is very humble and very respectful, the way he is acting. So Prakashananda Saraswati is also approaching him with great respect. Ihan Aisa, Shunaha Shripad, Apavitra Sthane Vaisa, Kiba Avashad. Please come here, Your Holiness. Why do you sit in that unclean place? What has caused your lamentation? Here is the distinction between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Prakashananda Saraswati. In the material world, everyone wants to introduce himself as very important and great. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced himself very humbly and meekly. The Mayavadis were sitting in an exalted position, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat in a place that was not even clean. Therefore, the Mayavadi sannyasis thought that he must have been aggrieved for some reason. Thank you. And Prakashananda Saraswati inquired about the cause for his lamentation. So, Prakashananda Saraswati is telling Lord Chaitanya, why are you sitting in such an unclean place? Come and sit inside. And so Srila Prabhupada is pointing to us that how Lord Chaitanya is so humble. Lord Chaitanya is showing us how to be humble and not only to speak, not only to preach, but how to act on that platform. So, because he's not taking a high seat or anywhere, whereas the other sannyasis were all sitting in high seats at that point. So, Prabhu kahe, ami hai hina sampradaya, toma sabar sabhaya vasite na yuyaya. The Lord replied, I belong to a lower order of sannyasis, therefore I do not deserve to sit with you. Mayavadi sannyasis are always very puffed up because of their knowledge of Sanskrit and because they belong to the Shankara Sampradaya. They are always under the impression that unless one is a Brahmana and has a very good Sanskrit scholar, especially in grammar, one cannot accept the renounced order of life or become a preacher. So Lord Chaitanya is taking humble position. He's saying, oh, I'm very low sannyasi. I do not deserve to sit with you all. You are all exalted personalities. So what we are trying to understand is that there are certain sannyasis who are very proud that I have so much knowledge. I have studied so much. And my Sanskrit, my command of the language Sanskrit is so good. I'm belonging to this sampradaya. So, and they say that, oh, if you are not good in Sanskrit, you cannot take up sannyas, or you can't even become a preacher. So Mayavadi sannyasis always misinterpret all the shastras with their word jugglery and grammatical compositions. Yet, Sripad Shankaracharya himself condemned such jugglery of words in the verse Prapte Sanihite Kale nahi rakshati dukrin karane. Dukrin refers to suffixes and prefixes in Sanskrit grammar. Shankaracharya warned his disciples that if they concerned themselves only with the principles of grammar, not worshipping Govinda, they were fools who would never be saved. Yet, in spite of Sripad Shankaracharya's instructions, foolish Mayavadi sannyasis are always busy juggling words on the basis of strict Sanskrit grammar. So, Sripad Shankaracharya, he is the one who propounded the Mayavadi philosophy. He's the one who really taught this Mayavadi philosophy. But he also warned his followers that don't just get so confused or so stuck up. Don't get just so stuck up in the in the grammar, in the way the words are being said in the Shastras. No, the main point is worship Govinda, Bhaja Govinda. He says, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Muda Matehe. Then don't be foolish, just worship Govinda. Don't just be just concerned with, oh, this word meaning should be this, meaning should be this, like that. But his followers don't listen to him. His followers are not following his instruction. They're always busy juggling words on the basis of strict grammar. So word jugglery is never going to get us out of this material world. Word jugglery is only going to make us more proud that, oh, I have such a command of a language. Mayavadi sannyasis are very puffed up if they hold the elevated sannyas title Tirtha, Ashram or Saraswati. Even among Mayavadis, those who belong to other sampradayas and hold other titles such as Vana, Aranya or Bharati are considered to be lower grade sannyasis. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepts sannyas from the Bharati Sampradaya, and thus he considered himself a lower sannyasi than Prakashananda Saraswati. So it seems that in this Mayavadi sannyas line, there is high and low. There's levels and everything. So even in the sannyas, what title you have depends on that, if you're a higher sannyasi or a lower sannyasi. So because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas from Keshav Bharati. So he's from the Bharati Sampradaya, which is a lower Sampradaya. So he said, okay, I'm a low sannyasi. To remain distinct from Vaishnava sannyasis, the sannyasis of the Mayavadi Sampradaya always think themselves to be situated in a very much elevated spiritual order. But Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in order to teach them how to become humble and meek, accepted himself as belonging to a lower sampradaya of sannyasis. Thus, he wanted to point out clearly that a sannyasi is one who is advanced in spiritual knowledge. One who is advanced in spiritual knowledge should be accepted as occupying a better position than those who lack such knowledge. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching by his example that don't be just so stuck up with what sampradaya I am in. Don't be stuck up on that. The actual elevated position of someone who has gotten the spiritual knowledge, whose spiritual knowledge is higher. They are more advanced. Doesn't matter which sampradaya you're belonging to. And so the more a person is learned, the more humble and meek he will be. When we are actually situated in knowledge, we will be more humble and more meek. It's only because of our ignorance that we are so puffed up and thinking that we are so great. That is ignorance, in fact. The Mayavadi Sampradaya sannyasis are generally known as Vedantas, as if Vedanta were their monopoly. Actually, however, Vedanti refers to a person who perfectly knows Krishna. So what does Vedanti mean? Vedanti means someone who knows Vedas. And the point of the Vedas, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 15.15, Vedascha sarver aham eva vedaya. By all the Vedas, it is Krishna who is to be known. So a Vedanti is someone who knows Krishna perfectly. Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita that all the Vedas are there. For what? To know me. Vedascha sarver aham eva vedaya. It is to know Krishna that all the Vedas are there. The so-called Mayavadi Vedantists do not know who Krishna is. Therefore, their title of Vedanti or knower of Vedanta philosophy is simply a pretension. So somebody may say, oh, I'm a Vedanti, but they do not understand Krishna's position. Then they're just Vedanti in name. Then there's just a title without actually having the qualification. The true Vedanti is someone who understands the position of Krishna. Mayavadi sannyasis always think of themselves as real sannyasis and consider sannyasis of the Vaishnava order to be brahmacharis. A brahmachari is supposed to engage in the service of a sannyasi and accept him as his guru. Mayavadi sannyasis therefore declare themselves to be not only gurus but jagat gurus, or the spiritual masters of the entire world. Although, of course, they cannot see the entire world. Sometimes they dress gorgeously and travel on the backs of elephants in processions, and thus they are always puffed up, accepting themselves as jagat gurus. So a Mayavadi sannyasi may think he is the jagat guru without even understanding what's the meaning of a jagat guru. Because some of them could be so puffed up, not understanding that the Vaishnava sannyasis are sannyasis also. It's not that they're not sannyasis. The Vaishnavas who have taken up the sannyas order, they are sannyasis too. Srila Rupa Goswami, however, has explained that Jagat Guru properly refers to one who is the controller of his tongue, mind, words, belly, genitals, and anger. So in Nectar of Instruction, Upadesh Amrita, Srila Rupa Goswami, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Srila Rupa Goswami has said that one who has controlled tongue, mind, words, belly, genitals, and anger can make disciples all over the world. That means Jagat Guru, means one who has control over the tongue, over the mind, over the words, over belly, genitals, and anger. Prithvim Sashishya, such a Jagat Guru is completely fit to make disciples all over the world. Due to false prestige, Mayavadi sannyasis who do not have these qualifications sometimes harass and blaspheme a Vaishnava sannyasi who humbly engages in the service of the Lord. So Prabhupada is trying to tell us that we should not just be puffed up, oh, I have taken up the sannyas order and so I'm great, I'm a Jagat Guru. No, the qualifications are we should be able to control tongue, mind, words, belly, genitals, and anger. And Vaishnava sannyasis are also sannyasis, not that only the Mayavadi sannyasis are sannyasis. So we should accept. In fact, a person who knows Krishna, he is the one who should be given the highest, how do we say, the highest, that he's really advanced.
Highest position or important?
Highest, or rather, let's say that he's actually advanced in spiritual knowledge. That he's really advanced because he understands Krishna perfectly. So he's understood the Vedas. And the Vedas are saying that the purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. So that's the point. So we'll continue with this pastime tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll hear how Lord Chaitanya is speaking to Prakashananda Saraswati, It's a very instructive pastime for us to understand. Did you have any questions or comments?
No. So this is that they're telling that how a sannyasi should be, because there was a lot of confusion for the Mayavadis and...
Yeah,
right?
That's right. Because they are thinking that only the Mayavadi sannyasis are sannyasis. The Vaishnava sannyasis are not sannyasis. And so they are thinking that we are on a higher level and we should be worshipped and, but that's not the case. That's not the case. Whereas their leader, the Sripad Shankaracharya, the leader of the Mayavadis, he himself is telling his followers, worship Govinda. Don't get into the word jugglery, into the grammar, into the misinterpretation or interpretation here. He said that always busy juggling words on the basis of strict Sanskrit grammar. He says, no, you worship Govinda. Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita that it's only by devotional service that you can understand me. So if we try to become scholars, we will not be able to understand Krishna. Just dry scholarship. But hearing about Krishna from Bhagavatam, from Bhagavad Gita, that is not dry scholarship. That is bhakti. We are hearing about Krishna from the scriptures. That is wanted. That is bhakti. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll stop here for today.
Okay.
Thank you so much for listening and enjoying it. Shri Caitanya Caritamrita ki jai, Shilpa Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Hare Krishna.